So I just finished watching President Obama's State of the Union address, and he clearly came off as someone in reaching the middle point of their term and looking for re-election in 2 years. He definitely tried to come across speaking more from the middle um, in his style, knowing that he's up for re-election in 2012. He said that who wins the next election is not what's at stake, but what's at stake is whether new jobs and industries take root in this country or somewhere else. It's whether the hard work and industry of our people is rewarded, which which is tough to say to Americans facing 10% unemployment, um, that their hard work and industry needs to be rewarded when they don't have anywhere to go to work hard, and our industry is leaving more and more every day. But he went on to propose a 5-year freeze on domestic spending that he said would reduce the budget deficit, the $14 trillion deficit. Um, a 5-year domestic spending freeze that would reduce the budget deficit by $400 billion over the next 10 years. So, 400 billion out of our $14 trillion debt over a decade. Seems like a tiny little drop in the bucket to me. And the problem is the freeze doesn't apply to the big entitlement programs like Social Security and Medicare, which are basically at the heart of the deficit problem. So nothing was mentioned about that. Um, Even though his own debt committee council, whatever he calls it, um, has very specific ideas on how they want to deal with Social Security and Medicare and how they could cut that. He didn't mention a word of it. And the tiniest cut from Social Security and Medicare could reduce the debt by hundreds of billions, if not trillions, of dollars. But again, no mention of that. Um, he insisted that the country needs to increase its investment in research and education to achieve a quote-unquote Sputnik moment akin to the space race unleashed when the Soviets launched Sputnik satellite in 1957. The aim would be to trigger a wave of innovation and create jobs at home. He went on to mention that America um, put the first automobile in driveways, but what he left out was that General Motors sold 2.3 million vehicles in China last year, more than it sold in the U.S., and up 29% with an expanding Chinese middle class getting wealthier. So America may have put the first automobile in the driveway, but America is now putting more automobiles in Chinese driveways than it is in driveways in the U.S. He didn't mention that. Um, he he said to cut spending, as the Republicans want in research and education, would be like lightning an overloaded airplane by removing its engine. It may feel like you're flying high at first, but it won't take long before you'll feel the impact, he said. Um, he called for closing tax loopholes and using the savings to lower the corporate tax rate for the first time in 25 years. He also proposed an end to tax subsidies for oil companies to help pay for clean energy innovation. And he actually said this: 80% of U.S. electricity production will come from clean energy sources, nuclear, solar, wind, and quote unquote clean coal, which there's no such thing as clean coal. But by 2035, that's 80% of all the United States electricity production will come from clean energy sources, nuclear, solar, wind, clean coal, in less than 25 years. Pretty lofty goal. Um, he also made it clear that he opposed permanently extending tax cuts for wealthier Americans after agreeing to a 2-year extension in December with the Republicans. And he vowed to pursue trade deals with Panama and Colombia, similar to a recently concluded pact with South Korea, a move likely to be welcomed by trade-friendly Republicans. Of course, it only makes sense, especially when our dollar is down like it is. It makes potential trading with other countries much more attractive to those countries when they can get our products much cheaper. So I think that's a great idea. Um, Republicans aren't happy with the 5-year spending freeze, saying more cuts were needed. Obviously, 400,000 out of our 400 billion out of our 14 trillion deficit is hardly a fix to the problem. Um, he said nothing about reducing the size of government, which would be a huge cut in our deficit. Not to mention, he said nothing about Social Security and Medicare, which are the biggest problem of our deficit. His own debt committee has very specific ways they want to work on that. But Mr. Obama, facing re-election in 2 years, um, didn't think it was important to mention that. So I don't know. I'm not leaving this State of the Union address feeling any more comfortable about the economy. I'm not feeling any better about. I don't feel now anymore that I'm not looking to face a potential economic collapse. Um, what did you leave the speech with? Do you feel like he really said anything important? Do you agree with his plans, or does more need to be done? But that's my opinion on excuse me on tonight's speech. So leave a comment below and let me know what you thought about Mr. Obama's speech. Thanks for watching.